There's an account of some women in the Old Testament that comprises a story that the German poet Goethe once described as the most perfect little story he had ever read. It starts in the land of Israel, but continues due to a famine with a woman named Naomi and her husband and their two sons moving east of the Jordan River, east of the Dead Sea, into the land of Moab in search of food and the security that the necessity brings. While there, they set up shop, but after some years, the men all pass away, and she is left with just herself and her daughters-in-law, and again, out of necessity, will head back west, back to her ancestral homelands in the southern part of Israel, taking with her one of the daughters-in-law named Ruth. It's a story that begins with poverty, but by the time you go through it, food has played its part in each step of the way. So as they head back and land in the southern part of Israel, they are first welcomed in the vicinity of a wealthy Jewish landowner named Boaz. And Ruth, who will go and do some gleaning or searching for leftover grain, will be able to be invited to Boaz's region where he and the men are eating, and there is survival and some security. Later on, another meal as she brings some of the grain she has gleaned back to her mother-in-law Naomi, who's nearby, and that's a second meal. That's chapter 2 of the Book of Ruth. Then Ruth will go and spend time once again in the land where Boaz is and his men, and will get food there. And then once again the next day, after she spent the overnight there, takes food once again back to her mother-in-law. The whole story begins out of the desperation of the poverty and the lack of it, but ends with the multiple opportunities for food, survival, security, and the necessities. And as many of you will know, the story goes, Ruth will end up marrying this man who has a certain claim on the lands. The vicinity, of course, is the town of Bethlehem. And generations later will be born to them and their descendants none less than King David, and another millennium later, out of the same line, is born Jesus himself. So here's a little window into the story of Jesus, framed by the poverty and lack of food, ending with the plenty, and what a delightful, perfect little story to go. I'm Jonathan Watt with Atara Group International, and I hope you're enjoying our series on dining with famous people of the past.